All right, guys. Quick 10-minute video cast. Tell me if you can see this well. If not, I'm going to adjust. Camera's kind of wonking out here. We got to do this for the next couple days to get some momentum caught up here in the operation. And we stopped talking about what to do with non-Arabs and non-Muslims. And I have all this stuff up on the board tomorrow for you to see. But the big question is, did non-Arabs who converted to Islam have to pay taxes? Or, as Muslims, were they equal to Arabic Muslims? Are they equals or are they not? The faith says so, but what do we do with them? And these are the difficult questions that the Ummah was working on internally while Islam was spreading to the Loire River Valley in the west and the Indus River Valley in the east. And the Muslims would bring a new culture into the lands that they conquered, sort of like the Romans did, or Alexander did with his blending of the Hellenistic world. But they understood that it was going to take time to take root. They couldn't force it. They couldn't quickly do it overnight. They weren't going to follow the Qin dynasty's plan of doing it rapidly, because that failed. They were going to phase it in little by little by little, and so after 20, 30, 40, 50 years, people would forget their old traditional way of doing it, and they would assume the more Islamic way. They would let it happen naturally. So as we're trying to organize an empire this big, we've clearly got to have a hierarchy. And leadership positions were created that were just simply necessary at this time for governmental organization. We know Muhammad is the prophet, right? He was chosen. After him, we're going to have the next 5 caliphs. And these guys are going to be very important. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and Mu'ayyina. Especially these last 2 here. The next caliphs were all picked based on an agreement by the old tribal leaders. And these 5 are significant because they were the oldest Islamic converts of Muhammad. They are guys who lived with him, who studied with him, who traveled with him. They're like the 12 apostles of Jesus' Islamic version. They intimately knew Muhammad. So it is of those qualities, since they were connected to the prophet, they have a little bit of precedence. But after you get by Mu'ayyina, you don't know what to do. There is no longer anybody left alive that had a personal connection or relationship with Muhammad. So what do you do then? Who do you pick after that? Who would be the next caliph be? And so to be a caliph, a person's religious and personal qualities were paramount. Not only your religious, but how you lived your life. Not only in their practice of Islam, but their association with Muhammad or one of the more prominent tribes were very important. Hence these 5 guys. Under the caliph, the next most important position is the imam. I-M-A-M, one word. This is an individual who will lead Muslims in prayer. Liken an imam to a Christian priest or even a Jewish rabbi. After the imam, the leader of prayer, we get the amir, A-M-I-R, or a general who commanded the Islamic armies in battle. At first, right, these were the 3 important hierarchical figures: caliph, imam, amir. And the first 4 caliphs, I'm going to give you the timeline, it'll be written up here tomorrow. Abu Bakr will reign from 632 to 634, 3 quick years. Umar will be the caliph from 634 to 644. Uthman from 644 to 656, and Ali from 656 to 661. Now, as I said earlier, these guys had no problem commanding the faithful because they knew Muhammad personally. They were with him and amongst his oldest converts. But then after Muayyina, the fifth caliph, that connection with Muhammad is broken. And so this is going to lead to eventually to a civil war. Come on, work. All right. We're going to have a civil war that will follow this great period of growth and after the caliphate of Muayyina. Muayyina helped found the first Islamic dynasty called the Umayyad dynasty. Umayyyad. And the Umayyads will eventually go to war with the Abbasid clan. Abbasids. And after, this is what I call kind of the Islamic schism. The Umayyads had a very tough job. The Umayyads are the dynasty in control during the expansion and governmental organization phase. And they oversee the tough job of having those old tribal ties broken, where your allegiance to your family is now secondary to your allegiance to Allah. And they see the transfer of Islam going from a rural, Arabs from a rural religion to a more urbanized one. And so, as we get going around 750, as the Umayyads are living in their beautiful capital of Damascus, Syria, the Abbasids rebel, saying that the Umayyad clan had become too worldly. They had become corrupted. And so the Abbasids will eventually win this war. They will win the civil war, but the two dynasties, the Umayyads and later the Abbasids, will build a foundation of the Islamic empire that will stretch from the Atlantic Ocean all the way over to the Indus River Valley in India. And as I said, the Umayyad dynasty was the first dynasty that had to oversee this shift from a desert Bedouin lifestyle into one of a more urban, sophisticated government. They governed this large, multinational, multicultural, intercontinental empire, and they laid the foundation of governmental organization. And their dynasty will end in 750 BC. The Abbasid dynasty will pick up right there. And they will rule from 750 for several hundred years. They will live in Damascus, and they will control the caliphate until just around 900 to 1000, the start of the Crusades. By that time, Islam had gotten so big that it broke up not from one single caliphate, but into many small regional caliphates, like 3 kingdoms. Each had their own individual caliph. So we go from one ruler to 3 different ones. Even though there was no remaining single entity in Islam, the religion was still growing. It will split into different factions. We will have a Western faction, the Caliphate in Cordoba over in Spain. We will have a central caliphate, the Seljuk Turks in Turkey. And then an eastern one will even get the Mongols involved. And the last thing we're going to begin to talk about are the ulama. And the ulama are known as a person of right knowledge. Where are they here? Okay, we're going to get this regional splintering. The ulama come into play, and maybe I'll pick up here tomorrow. It was difficult for the caliph to be a political and a religious leader at the same time. Now the first guys, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, were able to do this once again because of their connection and their ability to know Muhammad. However, as they phase out, there's a new younger generation of Muslims. And they don't quite remember those good old days, those traditions. But certain individuals are going to stand out. They are recognized for their piety of faith and their religious knowledge, their religious learning. And kind of unknowingly, unwittingly, they become religious figures known as ulama, U-L-A-M-A. And these ulama are concerned with preserving and applying the Quran, to keeping the Islamic traditions as close as they could as possible to the ones that Muhammad founded in Medina with the Islamic community there, the origin of the Ummah. They're very similar to a Christian bishop in the splintering of the Roman Empire who communicated to keep things together. The ulama are super important, and I want one of you to tell me tomorrow we are starting with the ulama and we are going to talk about the strength of the Quran. All right, guys, hopefully this will speed us up and we can get through the material we need to by break.